What's up, Gamecock Nation? Tashawn Wanamaker here checking in, and you're about to hear the show presented by Express Suns Rooms of Columbia. Spurs up.
Here in Columbia, well, it's been buzzing loudly all weekend.
Passion of the crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium is second to none.
And the rave breaks out in Columbia.
It is good!
Gamecock fans, welcome home.
See how it goes, but we'll be ready to go.
It's time to root.
Let's go, Carolina!
It's gone! Touchdown! What a hit! He baked it in! Can you believe it? Gamecocks have won this game!
Here are your hosts, J.C. Sherber.
Oh, watch him celebrate now!
Phil Molinex.
My wife doesn't like hanging around losers.
And Jamie Bradford.
I'm going to tell him, you look like you joined Duck Dynasty.
All right, greetings and good morning and welcome aboard Inside the Gamecocks, the show live from the Sinorama Studios. It is Hump Day, Wednesday, as we head towards the opening pitch of college baseball season at Founders Park and all across America. You might be noticing something a little different, just two of us. JC can't talk again today, but he will be back tomorrow. And interesting enough, I don't know if these two have spent time together, but Mike Morgan was going to join us today. He also can't talk. He called the game last night under the weather, so Mikey is gonna pop in with us tomorrow at some point in time. David Cloninger, though, will join us in less than 20 minutes. He did cover last night's South Carolina basketball loss to Vanderbilt, their seventh straight at home, and that, while it is a story, is clearly not the story that many of you will want to talk about, which it's already filling up in the Nana Sports chat box, and we will get to that here in just a little bit. We do have some football stuff to get to as well. And again, baseball season right around the corner, and that conversation will continue. It is a blowout of sorts on our program on Friday. A lot of names and faces you will recognize with us over our couple of hours on the air. leading into the first pitch at 4 o'clock from Founders Park. We are powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston, the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. If you're anywhere in the state of South Carolina and you want to go on a bike ride, or you want to start riding bikes and maybe you just don't want to get worn out while you're getting into it, Electric Bikes of Charleston can get you started and take you all the way to the finish line, up to 28 miles an hour on those things with pedal assist. And they are just absolutely fantastic. A full charge can get you about 60 miles from your house. So if you use 60 miles from your house and you run out of juice, you're going to be pedaling 60 miles home. So make sure you time it right. Gamecock owned and operated. Their warranties are unbelievable. Their service is even better than that. And we just cannot thank them enough for what they do for us and for so many people from the beach to the mountains and getting them out and active. With the spring coming, this might be a good way to spend some of your tax dollars if you're getting a refund this season. ElectricBikesCharleston.com, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show. So my voice doesn't go out too, Phil. I'll turn it over to you. What's up?
Yeah, well, not much here. Just, tying up loose ends, getting ready for the show, and almost forgot to invite everybody to join me. So we almost had the Phil show today. But, I'd be scared to have one of those bikes. My daughter would hop on that thing and test the limits of that 60 miles. And she'd be a 6-year-old in Newberry on her own.
Yeah. I am planning to get one at some point in time. I haven't ridden bikes in forever, but I've got kids, and that's what they do now is they get out and ride their bikes. And so I figure, well, I don't like working out. Ever since my playing days ended, running and stuff like that, I look at it more as punishment than I do as enjoyment. So I thought, well, what is a way for me to get out and just continue to stay active? So when I'm in the pool and on the boat all summer, you can't tell that I've drank enough vodka for most of the low country. I figure it'd be one of these bikes. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get Michelle to hook me up with one, and I hope you all join me. Looking forward, Phil, to getting DC on in about 15 minutes or so, because
12:20.
12:20. Yeah, God, that's right. You and I kept screwing this up. I asked Mike to come on at 11:20, and DC and you got DC for 12:20. Okay.
Yeah, I got scared with the text. I was like, oh no, they're overlapping. I mean, not that would be a bad thing, but David Cloninger, 12:20. Yep. Yeah. Just double check before I'm not thinking I'm the one who did it wrong.
I know. Jamie says in the Nana Sports chat box, ha, me too, JB. I'm assuming you're talking about the vodka comment. Yeah, maybe Jamie, maybe you and I need to get in our express sunroom and after we ride bikes and what does Lance call them? Have a few lattes.
That's right. Kick back a few lattes.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And also in the award-winning Nana Sports chat box, where's Craig?
Where is Craig? I hope Craig's okay. I haven't seen him in a couple days.
And where's Clint? Are they boycotting us today? Did they catch wind that JC was sick? Because, this is 2 or 3 days this week. I think Craig has been just bumped out of the front row seat. Adam got in, at least on the chat box. He got in first today, and then Marion, our resident mailman, and Jerry. Hey, Jerry. He didn't get to watch us yesterday, but he says his favorite player who he loved the most was Mike Hold. I had the awesome opportunity a few years ago to interview Mike when I was on ESPN, and that was just a great conversation. One of the neatest. I asked him. I said, "When you held that football out to the refrigerator, what were you thinking?" He said, "I don't know."
I don't know.
He wouldn't come after me, but he didn't. But that's pretty cool. Jan said Craig is blowing glass. So that's he's taking that sucker and run with it. But I can't wait to get DC on because he was one of the reporters last night from the game who was kind of, if you couldn't see it on TV, which I don't think they ever really made it a point. Mike called the game. I don't think they ever made it a real point to zoom in like you probably would see in the NBA on a player who seemingly is disgruntled. However, on Twitter, if you were following along with guys like David Cloninger, they were pretty much letting you know what was going on. That
Yeah.
Gigi Jackson was did not appear happy. At times, he was not involved in the huddle. If you watch the game, you could see oftentimes, Phil, when they were on their end of the floor, things would happen, and he just didn't really seem engaged like his teammates. He wasn't clapping. He was just kind of slumped over. It is certainly it's certainly something that we don't all know the details, but it is bringing a lot of public scrutiny, and there are a lot of different narratives running rampant as far as to what is going on with Gigi. Why is that happening? Is it on Coach Paris? Is it on this young man himself? Is it on somebody else? So there's just really it sucks, because it's a lot of drama, and when you're having a terrible season, it's really not something that you want to have to talk about with the by the rankings, the highest ranked player you've ever signed here. Everybody watched this kid for 2 years to see if he was going to come to South Carolina, and certainly right now it seems like there's a sour touch to it.
Yeah, you just don't want him spoiling the rest of the locker room back there, for what that's worth. But at the same time, I mean, it's I guess we're fortunate that it wasn't plastered all over, SEC Network last night while he's, over there sulking and, head hanging low. But, ultimately that, I realize this kid is a kid and has got a lot of maturity left to do. That's for sure. And, you can sit on the bench in the league and kind of mature a little bit. But, Coach Paris it kind of falls on his shoulders, in my opinion, JB, because, I mean, this is your team. You're supposed to be, putting your imprint on this team. And if you've got one guy consistently just, down in the dumps and not even celebrating even the smaller victories for the team, then, how long do we sit there and look at that before we start pointing fingers over at Lamont saying, hey, this is a reflection of you?
Right. Yeah. It's so contrary to, I try to be very fair. Phil, I think you've probably known this about me for a long time. I try to be very fair with the things that I say and the things that I know. And I know oftentimes we'll all get criticized based on our comments because they don't agree with somebody else's, perception of something or opinion of something. This is something that I don't know anything about. Okay. And none of us do. I mean, maybe somebody does. Maybe somebody knows someone, in the program who has been a little bit more open with them about it. Maybe somebody knows Gigi directly or Lamont. I have no relationship with Lamont Paris. So I always want to be very careful of saying things. Now, my opinion on this is not necessarily who's right and who's wrong. It's trying to understand how we got here. And so, if you've ever been an athlete, and I see a ton of you are filling up the Nano Sports chat box, so we're certainly going to read all these here in just a minute. If you've ever been an athlete and if you've ever been a coach, there is a lot to unpack in a conversation like this. As an athlete, your job is to do your job. As a coach, your job is to worry about the entire program itself. You generally don't want to treat one player different from another player when it comes to handling discipline, team play, things like that. You're going to treat guys differently based on what they can and can't do on the floor or on the field, and in where you are in the game and things like that. I get that, but I'm talking about how you're actually treating a player. So the reason, I'm not going to ever get into a back and forth argument with somebody about this situation and say, well, I'm right and you're wrong, because I'm not in the locker room. And I have no idea. I do know this. Michi Johnson last night was very supportive of it. He called Gigi Jackson his little brother and says that they're all behind him. Coach Paris is, after the last game that they won at Ole Miss, said that the group that was playing on the floor the majority of the game was the group that was producing, and that's why. it seems like there's probably a little bit more behind the curtain on that comment, Phil, but that's what he said. And so you certainly have to take that into consideration. I will say this as a player, regardless of I don't care how good you are or anything like that. You can't wear it on your sleeve. You just can't. And you can't, as fans, I personally don't excuse that because, oh, well, he's been treated bad, or, well, he's the best player, or, well, he's just a kid. Well, I've watched a lot of 17 and 18-year-old kids play who were phenoms in sports that didn't necessarily carry themselves the way that at least I have seen Gigi carry himself lately. Now, again, I'm not necessarily knocking on this young man because by all means, from what I understand, he's just an outstanding kid. But he's very, very frustrated right now with some things. Whether that's how he's being handled, whether that's his own play, whether it's something else, I don't know. But when you see what you see, like we're seeing it, Phil, it leaves our minds very open. And then, these conversations can just go right into the dumps really quick. And like I mentioned, if you were 16-9 or 17-9, you can skirt around some of them. When you're 9-17 in year one of a coaching change, and there's been other issues as well as far as the play of the team itself, it just makes things so much worse.
Yeah, I think, and I think you kind of hit it too, JB, when you mentioned that it is the first, year of a new head coach. So it's the pressure of that is not just on Paris, but on the entire team. And then, Gigi coming in and being the name for the team, there's got to be immense pressure on him. And, it's got to be tough, because like you said, you hear he's a good guy, a good kid, and all of that. Just needs to kind of handle adversity a bit better, or try to figure out how to adapt into an adverse situation in game, I guess, a little better. And that being said, I don't know what's going on outside of the court. Don't claim to know this guy. Don't claim to know anything going on. But aside from the fact that it's probably easy to assume that he's under a ton of pressure and just is maybe having a hard time adapting to that role.
Yeah, and I look at the Nana's Porch chat box here, and there's some really good stuff in here. I do want to read some of this. 76, what's up, bud? He says, I actually enjoy Coach Martin and Coach Paris's style, but Gigi seems to need something more. I want the best of Gigi, but sometimes you got to step up and be stronger. And I think you might be onto something there. So what is the more is the question, right? Because would he have been better off in more of a blue blood type program where when he stepped on the floor for the first time, there was zero pressure on him to produce. North Carolina is not the North Carolina necessarily that we're used to, but they are certainly better than South Carolina. Same thing with Duke. Both of them have gone through coaching changes. They're not the top 10 programs that we have been accustomed to seeing, but definitely while he would be playing up there significant minutes, he would not necessarily be the face of the program. I seem to think, this is just my personal opinion. I think he needs more Frank Martin style. But I think also, I'm old school in saying stuff like that. I think everybody needs a little bit of Frank Martin style in some way, shape, or form in anything they do. It's an accountability thing. Now, you can argue, is it too much or whatever? That's fine. That's totally open for debate. I'm not saying anybody's wrong in challenging my comments there. But it is good to have somebody hold you accountable. And frankly, that never cared how good you were. Frank was going to coach you. And he didn't listen to the outside world and things like that. And now it's not necessarily fair either to have this conversation about whether it's better to have Frank Martin or Lamont Paris, because Frank Martin is not here and Lamont Paris is. And, you could expand that even more. Well, what if it was somebody? What if it was BJ Mackey? What if it was Dennis Gates? What if it was Sean Miller? I don't know. These are all what ifs. None of them matter because this is the situation. But just watching Frank, I had a decade's worth of a sample size of watching him coach. He would have coached a guy like Gigi Jackson very, very hard, And I just find it hard to believe, personally, that you would see some of the emotion that he has let out the last couple of weeks. I find it difficult to imagine that you would have seen a lot of that with even if it's not Frank, with that style of coaching over him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Regardless of who it is doing it, if it's going to be a bit tougher of a coaching situation, then, yeah, because that kind of attitude just doesn't fit into the program at that point. So and then you go back to what I said originally is, with this, how much of it falls on Paris's head. I know this is his first run at a D1 school and being in a conference that, is very competitive and your expectations are a little higher. I mean, at least for this program itself, they weren't that great. But, it's hard to see what we've got to build on moving from here with what we've seen on the court thus far, JB.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will hit a break here, but I'll leave these final two comments and then we can pick up where we're leaving off. If from the emotional side of this conversation, replace the name Gigi Jackson with Josh Gray or with Jacoby Wright or with Chico Carter or with Hayden Brown or anybody else on that roster. Okay. If they were seemingly showing what he has shown, how would they be treated? Okay. Would they be, no, you're going to sit down because we're not going to deal with this. All right. From the play side of it, it does seem like Coach Paris is a little bit frustrated with how he's actually been playing the game as well, whether it's lack of hustle, just lack of understanding out there. I mean, you're 26 games into your career now. I mean, you pretty much know what it takes to go out and play college basketball. You're not going to be a polished product or a finished product, but you understand what it takes. If you're not playing well, you generally, some coaches say, well, you're going to play through it. Some coaches say, we're going to sit you down. Some coaches do both. That's their job, is to figure out whether I need to keep this guy on the court or on the field and let him play through it and work out the kinks, or whether we need to let him sit down and watch it a little bit. That's a big thing in baseball. Sometimes you'll see a guy get a night off and you're wondering, why is he not playing? Well, he just needs to watch it for 9 innings and just kind of decompress. Generally, though, I think in basketball, especially, Debbie Antonelli says this all the time, and I love it. If you're 0 of 20, just keep shooting. Just keep shooting. Just keep shooting. But there is a caveat to that, right? There's a catch. As long as you're playing the game the right way. You're not just going to drift down the floor and every time you get the ball, fire a shot up. Like, you still have to play the game. You got to play within the offense. You got to play within the defense. You got to hustle. You got to rebound. You got to do all the little things that you need to do. But when it's time to shoot it. Don't be scared to shoot it just because, you're not hitting those. So I think that's where this kind of falls again, Phil, is it's not necessarily always about the play. It's about how he's handling the play. And then my final deal with this is right, wrong, or indifferent. Always right, wrong, or indifferent. We're fans. We're media guys. We turn on microphones. We talk about it. We tweet, we Facebook, whatever we do. We sit at the bar and discuss with our friends. We're the outside world. The head coach in any sport needs to handle it the way that he feels is best to handle it, regardless of what anybody says. And so, and you know what? If it comes to fruition that was the wrong way to handle it, then that was the wrong way to handle it. But that's just part of coaching. Coaches, their job is to handle it the way that they see best to handle it, whether we agree or not. And Lamont Paris, part of being a big time coach and handling big time players, just like in any sport, is also being yourself. And while you are bigger than life, this logo matters more than you, and this is my decision, and here is why I've made that decision, period, the end. And if somebody doesn't like it, then they don't like it, but it's kind of a matter-of-fact moment, like, I'm the coach, this is what I say, and this is what we're going to do, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then we all have something else to talk about tomorrow, right? That's just kind of where I stand with all this. All right, I know we're 5 minutes past due, so we'll hit a break. Phil, we'll continue this conversation. Again, David Cloninger is coming up in a little while. We've got plenty of baseball, got some football to get to. Should be a lot of fun here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show brought to you by Express Sunrooms. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many, all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks!
Are you looking to buy a new home? Kevin O'Connell with Union Home Mortgage is a local mortgage expert and Gamecocks fan servicing North and South Carolina. Whether you're buying a home, building your dream home with new construction, or turning your equity into cash, UHM's world-class service will ensure you find the perfect mortgage to achieve your home ownership goals. Call Kevin at 803-906-0244 or visit UHM.com today. Union Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS 2229, LONMLS 1772182.
Gamecock Nation, JB here, and I'm here to tell you about my new favorite painting company, A Couple of Painters. These guys are the best. Gamecock fans and excellent painters, and by far the best and easiest quote I've received. They're licensed in both South Carolina and Georgia. They offer 10% off for military, repeat customers, or if you heard it on the show, commercial and residential painting, deck, fence, and cabin staining, cabinet and furniture refinishing. They'll even remove popcorn ceilings and wallpaper, and they offer pressure washing. Find them on Facebook or call 803-522-6832. A Couple of Painters, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
Oh, I feel that, man. My head hurts, but I have a good lead on a good idea. I'm calling your boy Matthew Odom today from Heritage Digital. Heritage Digital is an IT firm that specializes in making sure your IT network runs like a dream. If you have 1 or 500 employees, it doesn't matter. They do it all for one monthly fee and have clients from South Carolina all the way to California.
Yeah, I heard that monthly fee's low too, so I don't know why I didn't even think of that. Do you have 843-699-1001 as Matt's contact number?
Yeah, man, I sure do that. Or you can go to heritagedigital.com.
Man, I hear they do a no-cost assessment. Boy, this will help me.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm getting on that and encouraging everyone else to do the same. Heritage Digital, 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com, a proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
This is former All-American shortstop Drew Meyer, and you're listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Go Gamecocks.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. It's presented to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John Barber and his team a call, 803-446-4662, to talk to them about a potential outdoor retreat for your backyard. And the first hour of the show is brought to you by Cindy Searfalls and the Coldwell Banker Kane Realty team here in the Upstate. Give Cindy a call, 864-414-5271. She'll be happy to help you with all your upstate residential real estate needs. Couple of things to clean up here, JB. It is none other than Steven Garcia's birthday. Happy birthday, Steven.
Oh, we should have had
it. And, you know, I think from what I saw on social media, we missed, of all people, Meredith McKellar's birthday. So happy birthday, Mayor, belatedly. I think it was like Sunday, if I recall. If you're listening, Mayor, let us know we were wrong and we're sorry.
Well, and I'm glad you just said that. I'm texting her back right now. She sent me a text this morning. I was on the phone when she texted me. She's sending me a couple of hats.
Oh, nice.
And so, Meredith, if you're watching, check your phone.
Mm-hmm.
This is real, just fascinating media here as I text somebody happy birthday live on the air.
That's right. Well, looking at the Nana's Porch chat box, we could pivot away from basketball for just a second because Sean comes in and asks, are there any commitments on the horizon? Is it reasonable with the efforts right now? We could be doing we could have a top 10 class. So speaking to the latter, as it stands right now in the class calculator at 24/7 has us ranked 6th with the current commitment list: Pringle, Gregory, Smith, Bennett, and Reno. I don't know about any on the horizon.
I think
potentially there could be one hanging in the wings here. We just don't have anything official or firm yet.
Yeah, I think so. Blake Franks may be announcing early next week, and if that's the case, that's probably a good chance to see at this point in time, as the intel tells us, South Carolina's next commitment for 2024. I do know, based on a couple of things I've heard behind the scenes, I would think that this class has a decent shot by the time you get to summer to be in the double digits, to put it that way. If that makes sense to everybody. I don't really know what just happened here with my screen.
I don't know. Oh yeah, you went green.
Yeah, I went to the true green screen. I'm not.
That's right. Yeah.
Somebody got sick and tired of hanging out with me here. It's okay. We'll throw it back to the Sarge.
Yeah, that's right. We'll go back to the Sarge.
Sorry about that.
Trying to think here. Much talk's been. There's a lot of people out there projecting, JV, about the 2024 football schedule and how that's going to look, and whether we're going to have one permanent opponent or 3. I think that's still yet to be decided. If they're going to go with the 3-6 model and play 9 conference games, which I am a fan of. I mean, I know it eliminates some of the, some of the potential cross-conference, games and things like that, especially with some of the more bigger or some of the larger programs, more premier ones. The Virginia Tech game, I think what's that, 2025 that kind of comes to mind. I'd hate to see that go away. I understand there will be a lot of, narratives and stories much made of that game with Shane Beamer being the head coach of South Carolina. But it's interesting to kind of figure out who, your permanents are going to be, right? Because you want to know if you're going to have 3 of them, who do you think?
Yeah. So Phil, I don't think, regardless of what they swap the schedule over to, I don't think that the 2025 game in Atlanta is in jeopardy.
No, probably not.
I think that's going to happen no matter what. Unless there's really something drastic that changes. I think what you'd be more looking at is the 26 season when you host Miami. You're going to return that trip to the Hurricanes. Have they even set when the return trip is to Miami?
Oh, I don't know.
That is a home and home, though, right? It's supposed to be a home and home, but it's 2027, so next year. But they just have not announced the date yet, and something tells me that might be why, because they're waiting at what happens with the SEC. So you're talking about the Miami series. You've got North Carolina 28 and 29. Those are home and home series. You've got NC State 30 and 31. Those are home series. I can almost guarantee you this. If you go to a 9-game league schedule, and I just hope to be alive in 2033, which is 10 years from now, you could probably go ahead and wipe out the trip to App State. That ain't getting rescheduled. You've got 9 SEC games plus Clemson. Shane Beamer or whoever the head coach is at South Carolina is not taking that football team to Boone, North Carolina. I'll go ahead and put some money on that today.
It shouldn't. I mean, come on. Have we not learned our lesson yet?
Yeah.
Can we not stop scheduling App State? I don't care who's coaching or whatever. It doesn't matter. Just get it off the schedule.
Yeah, there's no if you want to play App State at home, fine. There's no reason to go to Appalachian State. Right now, they've got App State scheduled in 27, 29, and 34 at Williams-Brice. And they're at App State in 2033. As a matter of fact, Was it that the game that was rescheduled from this year? Weren't they supposed to play at App State this year, or was that next year?
Oh, there was one supposedly
was
to
one
be played as part of that. Yeah, that was agreed to. What during the Spurrier era? Doesn't that go back all the way that far?
Yeah. Well, it's yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how far in advance they sign these things. But yet, in college baseball, if you get during COVID, you miss a game. Oh man, they can't play this weekend because they got COVID. Oh well, we'll just go to wherever. You pick one up overnight, basically. But in football, they schedule them 20 years in advance, and half the fan base is dead by the time they even get around to playing the damn game. Right. So, but I think you could probably wipe that out. As far as the 8 or 9, I have no intel as to what they're going to do. I know the league's pretty split on it. I did hear that maybe last week or the week before. What should they do? 8 or 9 games? I could probably say this pretty confidently, and you can all probably just read between the lines and figure this out. If they stay with the 8-game schedule, which means they would go to the 1-7 model, 1 permanent, 7 rotating, or if they go to the 9 and they keep 3 and then they rotate 6, either way, you're going to play every team in the league every couple of years, which is 10 times better than it is now. Plus, you get to go home and away every 4 years. But reading between the lines, you could probably almost bet your house on the fact that Kentucky is going to be on your schedule every season.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you would figure, especially, with the growing narrative around the two programs right now, they're, I guess in the eyes of everybody that knows more than we do, JB, fairly equally matched year to year, program to program, football wise. So, I think that just makes sense as having Kentucky as a permanent. I think Missouri would be forced, for us, which I didn't understand. I mean, I guess I could behind the scenes understand why they were put in the East anyway when they did enter the league, but geographically it didn't make any sense. Auburn should have come over this way.
Yeah, and if they do away, which it seems like that's where they're headed, is doing away with the divisions. Mm-hmm. You're not gonna have to. I don't know how to say this. If you do away with divisions, you are. This is from a scheduling standpoint, the way that they're planning to do this by doing away with divisions and just going to the rotating model, the 6 or 7 rotating model. It is much more fair for the entire league. I'm not big, so I have a hunch. This is just my hunch. That if they go to the 3-6 model, I do think Georgia more than likely will probably fall annually on South Carolina's schedule. Who's the third one? I don't know. Is it Tennessee? Is it Florida? Something like that. I don't know. But I think where I think a little bit differently, Phil, from how a lot of people think, in the fact that let's say for instance, South Carolina got hammered. And they got Florida, Tennessee, and Georgia on their schedule every single year in a 3-6 rotating model, which I don't think that's going to be the case. But let's just say that it was. I'm not one of these people that says, "Oh my God, that's ridiculous. We have to play those 3 every year," because you don't really ever know what is going to happen with programs, especially with how the game has changed. With the fact that you can basically leave and transfer anytime you want to do that. NIL certainly has shifted some of people's decisions, and as they continue to clean that up, it'll change it even more. But are you scared of Florida right now? I know they beat South Carolina 30-0, but if I found out that they were on the schedule every single season, I wouldn't be terrified of that. Honestly, since Spurrier got here, Florida's been one of the teams that Carolina's had some pretty good success against, actually.
Yeah, even the Urban Meyer teams, yeah.
Right. Tennessee, as good as they were this year, there haven't been many programs in the SEC in the last 20 plus years that have been more inconsistent than the Volunteers. Georgia's the best team in the country, and there's no question about that. And I don't think that they're going anywhere at all. But we also don't know what the future holds. I doubt Kirby Smart wants to leave and go to the NFL or something crazy like that. But, if in a couple of years, if he's won another national championship, would he be a guy that would entertain actually following in the footsteps of Saban in Alabama just to see if he could do it? He's worth $200 million. Why not? So you just don't know how things are going to change ever. Mm-hmm. And you don't know, like one year you might draw Auburn and A&M and Alabama and LSU and whoever and think that it's unbelievably difficult, just like coming into the 22 season. And then you find out, well, A&M really isn't that good this year for whatever reason that it may be. So however they do it, I just want it to be a fair model. I'm not really too concerned with what teams fall where, because all of that stuff will consistently change because the sport is consistently changing in many different ways, not just one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to figure there's going to be, plenty of schools of thought around, how to schedule the permanent opponents. But I think one thing is for certain that, and I think 2020 kind of bared this out, is that the SEC at the top levels of the conference value the traditional in-conference rivalries a large deal, just a great deal. So, those are probably going to be taken into consideration. Then you could look at it geographically to see which schools are closer, and then kind of insinuate from there, project, make a reasonable projection as to who your permanent opponents would be.
The Nana's Porch chat box, Quantrell, what's up, dude? What do you guys think about a home and home with Florida State? Both teams trending up, and Doak is a pretty cool schedule, not too far in or pretty cool stadium, not too far away. Yeah, I like games like that personally.
Yeah,
I think that would be wonderful. I'd love to have a Carolina football team that was capable of paying them back for the Peach Bowl and many other games in years past.
Yeah,
but
and we turned down a game against them, I think. The setup, was that another Spurrier thing? Was that
was
like an opening
site.
Neutral site? Yeah, like an opening weekend kind of thing, Chick-fil-A kickoff or something like that.
Yeah, was it either in Atlanta or Orlando?
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the reason was, but I remember that. Ryan says if it goes to 9, they should make everyone have to schedule an additional Power 5 team. That's the only way to make it fair for Carolina, Kentucky, Georgia, and Oklahoma if they keep Oklahoma State. I don't – have they made a decision on that?
Oh, I'm not sure either.
I don't know. I hope they keep that game.
I do too, and I mean, yeah, it's like their old traditional Big 12 rivalry should, I don't know. Texas picks theirs back up with A&M just through default. I would assume that's going to be one of their permanents. You'd have to kind of assume that, but
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, you want to make sure that that. What is it? The Red River Shootout? No, that's
that's Oklahoma and Texas.
That's Oklahoma and Texas. But what do they call it? There's a name for that.
Well, you can't call it the shootout anymore. Now you're.
Oh, come on, yeah. Listen.
Oh, I mean, come on, Phil. You're out of line.
So yeah, I forgot I'm awake, but not necessarily woke on certain things. So you'll have to forgive me, Jimmy.
I did see. Hey, Craig woke up. Hey, Craig. He said. Brad Crawford said yesterday the SEC already knows the 3 permanent opponents and are still figuring out the other 6 on the schedule.
Yeah, yes. Brad Crawford is a good read. That is a good read.
I'd say you're on to something there. How about that? Let's see here. We'll get 1 or 2 more in really quickly, and then we'll hit another break. In the SEC, from Jamie, 15 of the 16 teams can be really good or really bad any particular season. Yeah, you just don't ever know how it's going to work out, and I mean, I'm not sure how many people saw Lane Kiffin ended up at Ole Miss, and all of a sudden, they become a team to compete with in the SEC West, right? So things can change. Things can change pretty quickly. Let's see here. I think I'm Tay says 0 cares about playing these ACC teams, and I'm an old guy that grew up with South Carolina in the ACC. Yeah, look, there's a lot of people that share that opinion. I totally understand that, and I see it through his eyes. And then there's a new generation that really have never seen that. Now, I of course have watched this play. North Carolina State, Virginia, North Carolina, a few times. I think we've played Virginia. I think I've been to 3 games against Virginia. Definitely the one in Williams-Brice when Corey Boyd hit that kid that never played again. Went up there, and then the bowl game. I thought I forgot about that. I still haven't. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Been to Raleigh.
Fortunately, did not get to witness that in person, so it's a little easier.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Been to Raleigh. Been to Chapel Hill. Was up there in 2007. I thought we were going to blow the doors off of them. We were up 21-0, and we won 21-15. But somebody said earlier the Florida State game. You know, we got Miami on the schedule. That is certainly a trip that I would love to make. I've never actually spent true time in Miami. I know that the stadium is not in Miami, but I would probably go down and hang out for a couple of days in the city before going to watch the game. Outside of that, I think I agree with him. Anywhere, I mean, Virginia Tech. I'm sorry. I've always wanted to go to Lane and certainly look forward to that.
Yeah,
but where else? Like, I mean, you know, I mentioned Florida State, I mentioned Miami, I mentioned Virginia Tech. Does anybody want to go to Boston College?
I mean,
Syracuse?
Tradition-rich Georgia Tech.
Now that's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Because I've never been. I have always heard that it's Grant Field, right? Like historic Grant Field. Like I would like to see that, just to say that I've been there. Am I hungry for that matchup? No. But you could bet your bottom dollar a ton of Carolina fans would be there. Tons.
Oh, yeah. It looked like a Vanderbilt game where a majority of the crowd is going to be for you.
Well, it's like what Georgia does when Georgia plays in Atlanta. You know, you're like, you know, it's almost, you can almost mistake it as Sanford Stadium. All right, it's 11:47. We got to take our final break of the hour. The G.G. Jackson conversation will certainly continue. Plenty of football, plenty of baseball, and David Cloninger up in hour 2. So hang tight. The Inside the Gamecocks, this show live from the Signorama Studios. We'll be right back.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Easy. He's got a tiger by the tail, he has.
He'd better hang on, too.
People have spoken. Nana's Porch was voted the 3rd best food truck or trailer by the Charlotte newspaper Public Poll. Also, their pimento cheese took 3rd in a contest exclusively for products made in this state of North Carolina. I will let Noah Hall tell you about the rest. Nana's Porch, Southern cuisine with an uptown twist.
We're well into the new year, and the days of being back in the pool and boat are quickly approaching. Many of us don't have the time to hit the gym, but Charleston Fitness Equipment can change that for you. Outfit your home with a treadmill, elliptical, or my favorite, a home rower that allows you to row with the pros all over the world. They have free weights, home gyms, flooring, and much more that makes keeping or getting in shape much more convenient. Located in Mount Pleasant, visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com for more. Get in shape like our Gamecocks. Charleston Fitness Equipment, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks.
Gamecock Nation, do you need a place to stay for the big game? Many hotel booking engines keep all the commissions, but at Fan Plans, you support Inside the Gamecocks, still earn your hotel loyalty points, and you receive an email with direct confirmation from the hotel. Whether you are visiting Columbia to cheer on Carolina or hitting the road to follow the team, get in the stands with Fan Plans.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
This is Coach O. Now back to the show. Go Tigers in the soul.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody, live from the Signorama Studios in Columbia. And, of course, brought to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John and his team a call to talk about how they can bring some sunshine into your life, 803-446-4662. And Cindy Searfoss will be happy to get you settled into a home or sell the one you're currently in here in the upstate. Give her a call, 864-414-5271. Jamie pops in. Bedlam, that was the name I was so desperately searching for. The rivalry between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Let's see. There's something else I saw. Oh, Kreger, yeah, with the Murdaugh trials. I know. It really is kind of captivating stuff. My wife catches up on it when she gets home.
It's amazing what's going on there. Yeah,
I know. Well,
all the eyes in the country today are on South Carolina. Probably 5 or 10 million watching this show, and then
easy.
You've got former Governor Haley announcing her presidential campaign about 20 minutes away from me, and you got the Murdaugh trial going on, and they're still flashing images of the F-16 that shot down the balloon off of the coast of, well, I guess,
was it Myrtle?
Everybody says Myrtle, but I mean, I think it was more off of like Surfside, if I remember correctly. Or somewhere kind of in that area. Marion says he's been to Carter Finley. Marion, I remember the 99 game, Coach Holtz's first game, and we were up there, and Hurricane Floyd came through.
Yeah.
And South Carolina, I think, had 97 yards of offense that night, maybe. Oh, it was a debacle. And I remember leaving the game. They had it was literally like a cow pasture that you parked in. There were cars stuck everywhere. I mean, it was just a train wreck. Carolina's defense, I think a lot of people forget, in 99 was pretty good. But they played 7 quarterbacks, including a wide receiver. And I mean, it's still amazing to me, Phil. It is amazing to me. Why does this keep happening?
We're getting failed by technology today.
Yeah, I know. It's still amazing to me that that Coach Holtz's second year, they somehow went 8-4 and beat Georgia, beat Mississippi State, beat Ohio State. I still can't figure out how offensively that team did what they did after what they just couldn't do in 1999, which was literally anything. They couldn't do anything.
No. I mean, obviously the record would bear that out. But, I think that speaks to even now when we're looking at the new scheduling format, it's like, hey, shouldn't be scared to play anybody, because there's no telling where these teams are going to be 2 years from now, and then, when all teams ebb and flow as we move forward. I think parity in college football is going to continue to increase with NIL and the transfer portal. The rich are obviously going to get richer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to expand the playoff as well. And that just gives more teams more opportunities to, get recognition on the national stage and attract better players.
Yeah. There's no doubt. So we'll see where this thing goes, man. I keep hearing 9, but I also wouldn't be shocked for them to end up keeping it at 8. I got a feeling we'll probably know something by May, and at the very latest, they'll know by SEC Media Days. But we're going to know pretty soon because they're working on the rest of the schedules now, and I think 9 is probably where they're headed. I know a lot of the powers in the SEC, that's what they want. Some of the non-traditional powers would rather stay at 8. We'll see who wins out there and how Greg Sankey and his staff kind of iron that out and not spin it, but spill the news to the public. Wherever you do go, though, or wherever you go in the next couple of years to watch Carolina play football or baseball or basketball, hopefully you and your friends will paint the town garnet and black, and you can paint a room in your house garnet and black as well for not a penny. If you head to Facebook, a couple of painters who paints our program garnet and black every day, they're giving away a Gamecock room, which means they're going to paint the walls for you the colors that you want them painted. And if you want it to be a Gamecock room, I'm kind of assuming you want it to be garnet and black, maybe a shade of white somewhere, or maybe you could get with Tristan and those guys and have them painted just like the helmet. If you're watching our program, one of the neat logos they have is that. It's the top of the South Carolina football helmet. That'd be pretty cool if you had a white walls with that going around it or something like that, Phil, instead of that doo-doo brown that you have in the background.
I know. I was just sitting here looking at my ceiling. It's got the, it's kind of perfect. You go the black in the middle, garnet on the edges, a little white. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Or maybe do a half and half. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving somebody an idea that Tristan's like, no,
don't tell him that.
Yeah. But if you win, y'all could figure it out. Head to Facebook if you're on Facebook, or maybe if your wife's on Facebook or whomever it is. Just type in a couple of painters and make sure that you send them the message. You'll see it. It's right there. It's pinned at the top of their page. It's easy. It's not spam. They're not going to send you a bunch of marketing stuff, ask you to buy products or anything like that. Somebody's going to win a Gamecock room. We're going to announce it on the air on March the 1st, but make sure you go ahead and get in there and get registered. 11:55, 76 does a couple of painters do work in the Low Country? Absolutely. They do.
Yes, sir.
They're here all the time. They are all over the state of South Carolina and Georgia, licensed and insured. They were just down here, as a matter of fact, 76. And if you've got something you need painted, you don't actually have to wait on them to come down and quote it for you either. You can call them and send them pictures. Like, you can text the pictures to them if you want to, and they can quote you. That's how they quoted my house. It was $2,000 less than the other quote I had. If you got a good memory or a pen, their number is 803-522-6832. 803-522-6832. So certainly give them a call and apply so you can win the free gig there. I do have a couple of interesting baseball notes on this weekend, Phil, that I'll wait and dish those out when we get back from break here in just a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, of course, is widely expected to handle business against UMass Lowell. They do return some talent, and I'll kind of tell you a little bit about those guys. But in particular, there is one stat that is really amazing, especially in today's day and age of college baseball. So you want to stick around for that. You just don't see it often. And so hang tight. We'll get that to you. David Cloninger is coming up at 12:20 as well. As far as the GG stuff goes, we're going to continue to talk about that. And, of course, DC, as we pointed out earlier, were you following David last night on Twitter as he was kind of like, well, they're in the huddle and GG's not in it. He's kind of standing over on the side. Did you see all that?
I called up on it this morning, being preoccupied with Valentine's stuff last night. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's
cooked dinner and But this morning while I was scrolling through Twitter to get caught up on folks like that, I could see his and I like how he does that in-game stuff. It's fun. That's you really do get a picture of what's going on inside the arena.
Yeah, last night wasn't good. And we didn't even talk about the basketball game. In 76, I appreciate, he says when he goes to buy another home, he'll hit me up. I really do appreciate that.
Hey,
my wife will be even more happy than I am. Thank you. That means a lot. As far as the basketball game goes, they're awful at home. I just can't figure it out, Phil. They're terrible.
It's a road team. I mean, that's all I can figure, because this is 7 straight at the CLA that the men's team has lost. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's and it's just really never even close. I mean, last night, it was like, oh, they're making a run, and I'm like, no, they're not. They're the team that when you're beating them, you just kind of have to withstand the little run they're going to go on. You squash that, and then it's over, and that's what happened. They're just not good at home. If I'm Coach Paris, I call every team left on the schedule and say, hey, look, we're just going to come play in y'all's gym.
Right? Yeah, that's right.
Do you mind?
No home games. Yeah. Do you mind? Would you mind if we only played at your place? Yeah.
If you don't mind, we're gonna head your way. We'll however you want to do it, you let us know. And and
although we didn't beat Vanderbilt at home, but we gave them a heck of a better game when we were playing up there.
Yeah. It's just all of it.
I was flipping really through the channels. I rolled around to the game, and it was they were just heading into the half at 38. I think was 18 was the halftime score, and immediately just went right on by.
That's just horrible. Yeah, it is really, really difficult to watch. All right, our one in the books.
That's right.
Signorama Studios.
Getting out of here.
I actually going to try to get out and do some yard work today. I don't know about y'all.
It started raining up here today a little bit, so
we've had plenty
heading your way.
I'm big on the yard, and I hate weeds, and I can't look at these things anymore. So I'm gonna get out there and do some damage. So everybody, let's make this a fun final hour before I'm outside slaving away in the grass and the.
Been over pulling weeds. I know.
That's right. Signorama, the preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics. Hang tight. Hour 2 is coming up. Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. The home of Oventon, Velotric, Magnum Bikes, and more, they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. Their electric bikes are equipped with 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle, so you can ride longer, handle the heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available for all ages and sizes. Visit electricbikescharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant if you're in the Low Country. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show. The real estate market has changed dramatically from just a year ago. Rates, supply, demand, all of your traditional factors are in a transition phase. That's why if you or someone you know are considering making a move in the Low Country, contact me, JB, at Coast to Coast Realty. I work with an outstanding support cast of attorneys, lenders, inspectors, insurance agents, and more, all of whom are valuable in helping find a way for you to comfortably make your real estate decision. That's right, call me, JB, your Low Country real estate broadcaster. Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half-hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer.
You're tuned into Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Sideline and picked off. Brad Edwards will get a convoy. Touchdown, South Carolina.
Chicken's got serrations, spurs. You ain't just a bird. You're top of the coop, star of the show. You're a rooster who was born to crow. Well, I bet you wonder when you win and lost a step or two. Fell down the pecking order, couldn't fight.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. Presented to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John a call, 803-446-4662, to talk about a potential porch or patio enclosure for your home for this summer. I'm sitting here scrolling through these Nana's Porch chatbot comments. I think we've got pretty much.
Big Wash, I'm with you, man.
Well, that's what
drive me nuts. Drive me nuts. Like I'm not one. I mean, I've got 2 dogs. You know, like I'm not one of these crazy anal people about having a perfect yard, but I want my yard to be nice. I will say it does royally piss me off when we're working the backyard with new zoysia, and I lay it down, and then like I can't really get mad at him because he's my boy and he just turned 15. But Capers kind of lugs his way out there and pees right on my brand new grass and it turns yellow. I'm like, yeah, damn it, you know. Come on, man. Like, he looks at me like, what? I mean, what do you want me to do?
Oh, there's 5 or 6 neighbors in my neighborhood who have that little sign out in their yard with the little dog on it. Like, no, don't go here. You know, Don't go here. Don't go here.
Dude, that happened to me one day, not in this neighborhood, in another one. Somebody, my dog, it's the sliver of grass between the sidewalk and the street, you know?
Yeah,
right. By the way, I've never understood that ever. Like because I have that in front of my house. We live on a corner and I have to take care of that. But yet I go to other parts of the country and they just put the sidewalk right on the road, you know,
right.
Like, I mean, it just makes more sense. But anyways, but that happened to me a few years ago, and I was walking Capers and he took a leak, and this lady came outside and said, "You're going to clean that up." I said, "Clean what up?" He didn't take a dump on your grass. He peed in it. And she, "Didn't you see the sign?" I said, "No, ma'am." "Well, he can't go there. He needs to go on your own grass." I said, well, next time he's going to piss in your driveway. How about that?
How about that? How about to walk him right up to your porch, lady?
You know? Like, come on, man. I mean, I think he was like 12 years old at the time. I was like, come on, man. It's my 12-year-old. He's barely getting around. Like,
yeah, right. Look at this dog. It's a wonder that he made it this far. I love it. I mean, yeah, you got to love pretentious neighbors.
Some people just yeah, exactly.
Well, and if it's that strip between the road and the sidewalk, that's not her grass anyway. That's the other thing. It was like, that's just, that's not even yours. It's a county easement more than likely. So either you don't have to take care of it, but if you want your yard to look good, obviously that looks like an extension of your yard. So you got to take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I will. On that note, though, to Saunders' point, he says the best is when someone's dog is taking a steamer in your front yard and they smile and wave at you. WTF? Yeah. You know, now that's true. Like, don't. Yeah, look, man, I'm not going to let my dogs, drop a load in your grass. Like people have kids, they take care of their lawns. Like, I'm very respectful of that. I get it, and I don't want someone to do that to me. But that's happened here before too. You're like, I mean, you see, I was literally outside, and the dog, they were going that way, and I was like, we live on a corner. I was looking this way, and they didn't even know I was looking at them. I was like, hey, like, oh man, sorry, didn't have any bags. I'm like, oh
yeah.
Okay. So you just go.
So if you forget the bag, do you go back and get it as a responsible dog owner, JB, or just leave it there?
Yeah.
Good fertilizer.
I go get it.
I go get it.
I go get it. All right, a couple of things to get to in baseball here. Let me point out some new. If you haven't heard about this, the SEC, Major League Baseball has got a bunch of new stuff going on this year from a rules standpoint. The SEC does as well. These are rules that are intended to speed up conference games. 30 seconds only. I mean, you'll have a 30-second mound visit clock. Now, I'm going to need to get – should ask Monty this yesterday. I need to get some clarification. I am assuming that 30 seconds starts once the pitching coach establishes communication with the pitcher. And it's but I do want to see the language because it can't start – everybody is not my man Skylar Meade. Skylar sometimes would book it out there. He'd almost run to the mound quicker than the guys run on the field. So you can't start the clock when you announce that you're going to establish a visit with whoever's on the mound, because sometimes it takes these guys 20, 30 seconds to get out there. So I'm assuming it's communication, but I'm also assuming, Phil, that it's not just when you step on the dirt, unless they have a rule that says the pitcher can't step off of it. Because if that was the case, then you would just stand out in the grass and talk to them.
That's what it appears it looks like they're going to have to do. Because it is, according to it, it's like, let's see, shall begin when a coach exits the dugout. Or when a defensive player leaves their position to visit the mound. So
that's impossible. I mean, there's no way they're going to be able to enforce that. That's
and then the 230.
But
I know it's crazy. Mm-hmm.
You said say that you're talking about. No.
Yeah.
So 230s for a pitching change when you announce
no.
You get 230.
Yeah,
30s for the mound visit.
Yeah, the 30 mound visit. 30-second timer on a mound visit shall begin when a coach exits the dugout or when a defensive player leaves their position to visit the pitcher's mound. Unless the coach signals for a pitching change, the coach must leave the mound when or before the timer expires. Okay, so you don't account for the trip back.
Well,
they're giving you, they're going to clock you going 2. Then you step off of the mound at 29, and you can take however long, talking to them on your way back.
This ain't gonna work.
It's crazy. I know it's nuts.
There's got to be more to. There's got to be something in there I know you're reading the rule, but there's got to be some type of leniency because there's no way that you're going to have a pitching coach who's going to fire himself out of the dugout and try to get to the mound in just a few seconds for 20 seconds to talk. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, you might have a coach. What if your pitching coach has is hurt? I mean, it's not just players that get hurt. I mean, so what if he twists an ankle and he's just a little hobbly getting out of the dugout? I mean,
right. Yeah. What if he's an older guy? I mean, yeah.
This ain't gonna work. Yeah, somebody's gonna get thrown out of the damn ball game for being told to go back to the dugout once they just got to the mound.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the same timer starts on the pitching clock, the pitching change clock. So the 2:30 does not begin when the reliever arrives on the mound. It actually is when they leave the bullpen. So the second they step out of the bullpen, the 2:30 starts to count. After the end of the 2:30, they'll get the 20-second pitch clock, and you better have it across the plate.
See, these are things that okay, all right, and you've got 30 seconds between batter's clock. All right,
Yep.
So what happens? Coach Tanner used to do this all the time. You get a guy who's headed to the plate, and you call him back, and you pinch hit, or you call him back to talk a little bit of strategy with him. Like, baseball still has strategy in it. People get that, right? So I don't know if these were unanimous. If there's no way that every coach in the league voted for this, because, I mean, guys, we're talking about a few seconds. Like, if we're really that hard pressed on saving maybe a few seconds, come on, man. I mean,
well, that was going to be my question to you, JB. Is this addressing the root cause of these games going long?
Well, I mean, look, games go long because strikeouts and walks are up. And that's
Right.
one of the things that pisses me off to no end. This is Major League Baseball has missed on this as well.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you why you're never going to hear the truth, because it's money. That's why. Okay? Because I mentioned this to Monty yesterday. This is the truth. I've had 2 big leaguers tell me this. Okay? If you hit 230, but you hit 30 home runs, you're going to get paid. All right, but if you hit 290 and you hit 10 home runs, you ain't getting paid like the 230 guy who hit 30 jacks. All right, so in lieu of strikeouts, hitting home runs makes you more money. On the pitcher side of things, if you actually look at the stats over the years, you're talking about in the big leagues now, there's 9 strikeouts per game and over 3 walks per game. And that doesn't include hit by pitches. All right. So, so contact is down. Well, contact is what keeps the game moving. That's baseball. So, like, the power game has lengthened the ball game. When strikeouts, and when I say 9 strikeouts per game, guys, I'm talking about 9 strikeouts per team per game, not total. So you're talking about, if it's 9 per game in the big leagues, you're talking about 18 strikeouts on average per game. All right. And you're talking about 6 walks on average per game. That's 24 hitters who went basically pretty much the full length of an at bat, either via walk or strikeout. Right. So that's where the game is going to lengthen itself. I mean, and if you go back over the years and back to when it was 5 or 6 strikeouts per game and maybe 1 or 2 walks per game, because it was less about power and more about pitching, or less about power and more about hitting on the offensive side, that's when your games move faster. But you can take this all the way back to 1998, Phil. I'll never get off of this horse. Like, again, as I mentioned earlier, there are some things that I want to be careful about, and then there's some things that I know. This I know. Major League Baseball, and it's the trickle-down effect 25 years later, we're paying for it. Major League Baseball, you talk about the steroid era. Okay, we're not naive, right? We all knew that Major League Baseball allowed that to happen. The question is why. And why? Because the home run brought the game back. The strike of 94 decimated Major League Baseball from an attendance standpoint, from a popularity standpoint. You know, you didn't have Twitter and all this stuff back then. Like you really didn't have anything. You just had people that were just pissed off and they just stopped going to games. And so you had to figure out a way to bring the game back. So, well, what happened? Well, you had the home run chase of 98. Everybody knew Big Mac was on the juice. Everybody knew Sosa was on the juice. Everybody knew Bonds was on the juice when he hit 7,000 home runs. That's why I think those guys should be in the Hall of Fame. They did cheat, but Major League Baseball let them cheat. They'll never admit that. But the game shifted to a power game then is what happened. And so –
and it's not like defense wasn't using it either. I mean, you could see it in the pitchers too. So, I mean, the playing field was level.
That's right.
From a steroid perspective. Yeah. Yeah. You got juiced up guys throwing to juiced up guys. So it's like, hey.
Yeah. I mean, and so like in Major League Baseball now, Phil, like we just mentioned these, I think these are kind of ridiculous moves in the SEC. I do agree with the 10-run rule after 7 thing. I know every coach signed off on that. And you're in this trend now where it's like, let's not throw arms that we're going to use again tomorrow out there. Let's just throw a shortstop out there and let him finish the game. So might as well just end the ball game if that's where you're basically throwing in the towel anyways. But like in Major League Baseball, you've got, okay, so they're stopping the shift, right? You have to have 2 infielders on each side. Fine. I'm okay with that. I mean, Smokes told me time and time again, I'm sick and tired of hitting a ball in the hole and having a second baseman standing in shallow right field throwing me out. Like, it's just a joke. So like I understand like a lot of the shift stuff and things like that. I understand going 3 inches larger on the bases if it's a safety issue, but like limiting pickoffs, don't understand that. I mean, how are you going to control the run game? The 8-second rule where batters have to be in the box with 8 seconds left on the pitcher's clock.
Yeah.
Don't understand that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. What if he gets a bug in his eye? What if he needs to tie his shoe? What if he needs to adjust an elbow pad? What if he missed a sign? I mean, like, so what it does is it leaves this gray area for trying to determine what happened. Well, then what happens? Coach comes out, gets pissed off, he gets chucked, over these rules that they've, quote, tested in the minor leagues over the years. But those are the minor league guys. These are the big leaguers. Like, these guys don't care what happened in the minor leagues, although they all played there. They've earned their way to the big leagues. They're going to argue tooth and nail until they get their way for some of these ridiculous rules. So back to the point. If you want to speed the game up, then you need to pay the guys to do the things that the game was built on, which are throw strikes and hit the baseball.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do not like the current iteration of the game. I'm not big on, either feast. I don't like the feast or famine batting attempts. I think a lot's lost for, situational hitting. I mean, you're not, well, you think about, but I guess one of the more recent, kind of slappy guys, if you will, you think about Ichiro Suzuki, right? So it was like the guy was not known for knocking it over the fence. I mean, that just wasn't his game. But, I mean, his on-base percentage was probably leading the league. His number of hits. I mean, you got to think about it. It's just, that's the way I like it better. You're advancing runners. It gives you the opportunity. And here's the other thing. These guys in the majors, they don't know how to run the damn bases, JB. A base running, the art of base running itself is lost just completely because they don't get to experience it enough, and it just makes me upset. I love baseball. I played it, until I stopped, and then I mean, it just it's always held a big spot in my heart. But the way the game is now, it's frustrating to watch for me.
Well, and to back up, and I know we got to go because Cloninger's up next. To back up the point I was making a minute ago, Whit Merrifield said this 2 years ago, and he was dead on the money. Dead on. He said literally almost word for word what I just said. You want to speed the game up? Pay guys to make contact and stop paying guys to strike out and hit home runs. I mean, he said it on national television, and he got a little heat for that. But Whit wasn't lying because the Whit Merrifields of the world, like there's not a ton of those guys that still exist in big league baseball. And he was, I thought, exactly right. Zach does ask in the Nana Sports chat box, do they use the earpieces to make pitch calls in college now, or is that just Major League Baseball? In the SEC, in SEC games, they do. And some of the other leagues have that rule as well. But, like, you'll see Coach Parker give signs maybe in a midweek game, and then on the weekends you'll see somebody hearing it in the earpiece. And they've kind of shifted that model. All right, and the stat I mentioned that I teased before we went to break, with UMass Lowell coming to town this weekend, first and foremost, Phil, they don't play a home game until March the 22nd. Their first 17 games of the year are basically down south, which is how you have to schedule when you play in Massachusetts because you're full of snow. Their top 3 hitters do return. All of them hit well over 300 last year, and 2 of their top 3 starting pitchers return. So, you know, they are going to roll out a decent product this weekend at Founders Park. But how about this? 2 of their top 3 hitters last year combined to steal 83 bases, Phil. One of them stole 46 on his own. Of course, that means the other one stole 37, so they ran about the same. The Gallagher kid was 37 of 43. Humphrey, 46 of 47. He was thrown out one time in 56 games. So, needless to say, I think these guys are all at the top of the order, 1 through 3. If you get these 2 dudes on base, they're going to run and test the young catchers of South Carolina this weekend. So certainly something to keep an eye on. 46 stolen bases. Of course, they don't play in the SEC. That number is going to drop a little bit when you play better competition, but that is just unbelievable.
No doubt. So. But we got DC here waiting in the wings. Let's run a quick break here and bring him in.
Sounds good.
We'll see y'all with David Cloninger after this.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the Village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Are you looking to buy a new home? Kevin O'Connell with Union Home Mortgage is a local mortgage expert and Gamecocks fan servicing North and South Carolina. Whether you're buying a home, building your dream home with new construction, or turning your equity into cash, UHM's world-class service will ensure you find the perfect mortgage to achieve your home ownership goals. Call Kevin at 803-906-0244 or visit UHM.com today. Union Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS 2229, LONMLS 1772182.
Hey man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly. You know what, Phil? Let's ask Stone Blanton.
Hey, JC and Phil, if you want a solution to your IT problems, give Heritage Digital a call. Our boy Matt Odom has a low-cost, one-price solution that will get you running right. Call 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com and ask for Matt. He will hook you up today and tell them Stone sent you.
This is freshman All-American Nicky Memorial of the Carolina Gamecocks, and you're listening to The Show with JC and Phil.
welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, brought to you by Express Sunrooms in Columbia. Give John and his team a call, 803-446-4662. They'll be happy to talk to you. Mention you heard it here and decide to go with the project. They'll give you $500 off. And we are joined now on the McKellar Enterprises guest line by none other than DC, David Cloninger of Charleston Post and Courier. David, how you doing?
Not bad, Phil. JB, great to see you, man. It's been a long time.
I know, man. I thought I was getting out, but
we pulled him right back in.
You know the life, man. It's hard to leave.
How are you? How's your son doing?
He's doing great. Yeah, he turned 3 last month, so he's definitely keeping me on my toes. Starting to throw with his left now, which I don't know where he got that from, but I'm glad to see it. Already reached out to Michael Roth, and he said, man, when he gets of age, I'll be glad to show him a few things. So that's Daddy's little retirement fund coming forward in a few years. Liking that. Just got to keep the golf club out of his hands. That'll mess up your rotator cuff real quick.
Yeah. But you got to know how to play golf, though, because it's the only thing you can play forever.
That's true. Maybe that's why I never got into it. I'm like, I get mad enough watching the Braves on TV. There'd be no telling what I'd do on a golf course.
That's right.
What do you mean clubs aren't disposable?
That's like, Smoke's got a standing tee time every day at 10:20 DC. If you call him between like 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock, you ain't gonna get him. Yeah, I just got off the course. I'm like, is that all you do? Yeah.
Once he got back from Japan, it was golf, hunt, and fish. That's it, man. Good old Smoker, man. I've had a great career.
He is something special. There's no doubt. All right, so what the elephant in the room here is. Everybody has almost glossed over the fact that the Gamecocks have only won 9 games this year in basketball, but the story of GG Jackson just continues to not go away. I was following you on Twitter last night, because you had the eyeballs in the arena. So what did you see, and what do you make of it today?
Well, obviously he didn't start again, which I kind of figured is half punishment for the little Instagram live fiasco, maybe some with how he acted for the Ole Miss game, and then some because, quite frankly, as bad as the Gamecocks are, they're still playing worse with him on the floor. They're playing better at present without him on the floor, so maybe that had something to do with it. But everything was fine in the first half. He didn't play a lot, but the whole team played bad in the first half. I mean, they were allergic to rebounds, and that's what pushed Vandy up by 20. But then in the second half, he didn't start. He comes in on the first sub. USC's on a bit of a run. They immediately get knocked out of that run. No fault of GG Jackson's. It was, again, just the team kind of fell down on what they'd done to get on that run. So Lamont Paris called another timeout, about 14 minutes to go in the half. They're having the huddle over there, and all of a sudden I see GG kind of pop up, go over to the edge of the huddle. One of his teammates, Javon Benson, kind of puts a hand on his chest like, hey, slow down, GG continues to stand at the end of the huddle while all the rest of his teammates are in it. And then he starts ripping off his wrist tape and throwing that away. And then just kind of sits down on the end of the bench and slouches and, doesn't engage with anything. Does come back in the game for about 90 seconds, then sits down for about the final 10 minutes. And, he was standing up occasionally, clapping for his teammates occasionally. But otherwise it was just, I'm done, don't talk to me. So, ask Lamont Paris. He said, hey, I didn't even see that. I was busy coaching the guys on the floor, which says a lot without saying a lot, saying like, look, I'm going to coach the guys who want to be here and who we're actually having a chance to win with. And if that includes GG, fine. If not, that's fine too. But right now, this is becoming quite a second little scene. I go to every men's game now knowing I'm going to have to write a story about what happened in the game and a story about what GG Jackson is doing, because that's now 4 incidents where something like this has happened. And, I'm not saying that there needs to be answers, because Lamont Paris, it's his program. He's do what he wants with it. He seems to be handling it well, but I think there's a lot of fans out there who are thinking, what exactly is going on with this young man? Because at some point, you got to quit using the excuse of I'm 18 and don't know any better to what am I learning from my mistakes?
Yeah, that's what I was going to point to is that, from the outsider's perspective, David, what we kind of, are feeling is it was like, okay, where do you draw the line on, okay, this is just an immature kid, and when are we going to expect to see a bit of growth and maturity? Not just, because we don't know what he's like outside of, playing on the court or, his demeanor there. We don't get to see him in practice, things of that nature. But we, as fans, tend to project what we see in that public, showing on court as to, how this man is in real life. And is it, where do you draw the line between maturity and the way Paris is supposed to be kind of wrangling that in from a coach's perspective?
That's it. And, none of us know what Gigi is like as a young man, what he's been through, as a basketball phenom from a very young age, and always told that he's the best, whatever. The problem is that, once, okay, you're willing to forgive it. The second time he did apologize for the day after, okay, fine. But now there's the third time, and now there's a fourth time. So when's it going to end? And, with Lamont, it's like, well, you're not going to kick a player of that caliber off, because what's going to happen there? All you're doing is hurting yourself. And then with the young man, he's saying like, well, he can come back. He can go pro. He can go to the G League. He could transfer. Who knows what he wants to do? But the fact is that it's not helping this team in any way. Now, I said from the beginning, I think you guys all knew Gigi's a outstanding talent. But even with him, the Gamecocks were not going to be good this year. They just do not have the horses to be good this year. Maybe that's some of that kind of leading into his frustration, which is fine. If you're frustrated because your team's not playing well, you're not making your shots, that's fine. Sit on the bench and at least act like you're engaged. But all the little, public displays, untying your shoelaces while the game's on, pouting in your locker while your teammates are celebrating because they haven't won a game in a month. But every one of them's jumping up and down like they just won the national championship while you're sitting there. That's got to stop, because it's just not a great look for him or for this basketball program or for his first-year coach, who's really trying to do a whole lot that, quite frankly, they're not capable of doing right now. That's not a knock on him. It's the hand he was dealt. But it's one of those things that starts to creep out of like, hey, why didn't this situation get handled better than it did while you were in your first year there? Because that's going to affect the second year.
You kind of touched on a little bit of where I was going next. David Cloninger with the Post and Courier, one of the best writers you'll find out there. By the way, Andrew, Coach Kingston will meet with the media tomorrow at 12:30 to kick off the 23 baseball season. Well, we heard Michi last night. Michi says he's like a little brother, and certainly going to support him and things of that nature. But I mean, I don't ever want to put words in anybody's mouth or anything like that, but have you heard at all, how his teammates kind of view the situation and what's going on behind the scenes with the guys actually put the uniform on?
I've made a few, inquiries, I guess. I haven't gotten back anything of substance. Probably a lot of people are just saying, you know what, like, look, the season is coming to a close. You're supposed to leave all of everything that happens in the locker room within the locker room. So I don't think anybody is just red hot, wicked, angry about what he's doing and is going to be willing to speak to a reporter about it. But I also am pretty sure that not everybody's just okay with it, saying that's all right, just ignore it. I mean, I don't think you can do that. So there's probably a mix of both, but, I don't have anything definitive to say like player X sure doesn't like it. But, I'm sure there are some guys on that team who have been playing ball for a while like, what are you doing, man? I mean, if I had your talent, there'd be no stopping me. But it's just a case of
David, you're muted for some reason.
Sorry about
yeah, there you go. No, you're good.
But you just hope that, he starts to see the error of his ways and comes out of it. And, no one expected him to be around for more than 1 year anyway. So we'll see how that goes. But that's still a few games away to be decided.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like when you look at it the broad picture perspective there, David, does the NBA care? No,
well,
because we knew we have him on loan, right? I mean,
right.
all
talent
one and done. No, yeah.
The fact is, though, is that, and the NBA obviously is equipped to deal with egos because you're paying these guys a lot of money to play a game. And I've always said that the worst profession on earth outside of being a sports writer is an NBA head coach, because you're trying to help these guys, but they don't have to listen to you.
No.
So I'm sure that it's not pleasing to see some things that are going on to an NBA scout, but the talent's probably going to overweigh it. What you just hope, though, is that nobody is going to say, I don't know about that kid. Is he coachable? As you and I both know, Phil, once you get that term uncoachable stapled to you, it's really hard to remove it.
Very hard. Yeah, exactly. And I hate to see that for him, because it was like, because we all know if you do get that tag put on you, then you start to get a bit of a stink and people want to stay away from that. Well, shifting gears to baseball, we've had Coach King on. Monty was on yesterday. Everybody's, I think word around the campfire is we've got some really good pitching going into this season, right? And the big question mark for everybody, as it was with last year, is, are we going to be able to hit the ball? So what are your early thoughts on how the baseball season is going to look, David?
Well, popping in and out over at Founders for the scrimmages, I've seen a lot. Of course, there's always going to be some you expect, some you don't expect. The pitching should be just fine. Now, I'll just go ahead and say it. I said that last year, and an act of God happened where 3 of the top 4 pitchers were gone by game 8. So you're just hoping against hope that nothing of the sort happens, although they're already down 2 pitchers due to Tommy John surgery. So, things happen, but that's going on a lot. Arkansas and LSU each lost 2 of their top guns this weekend for the same reason. So, But in terms of answering your question, I had an idea of a starting lineup going into the first preseason scrimmage. I looked at it today. Maybe 2 of those guys will start on Friday. That's how much these 3 weeks have changed things. I mean, some guys have really unexpectedly struggled. Some guys have come in and saying, like, they're going to play him, but what's going to happen there? Another guy that, started almost every game last year at this point would not start. So there'll be a lot, as there always is, of subbing in, subbing out over this first series, over these first couple of weekends to see who gives you your best top to bottom lineup. Because, last year the pitching played a huge role in how bad the season went. But it was also a case of, again, why isn't this team capable of hitting the ball? The offense under Mark Kingston has not been good, and it's got to change. You hopefully, with Monty Lee on staff, it will, and for the better, because with the pitching they have now, Phil, it is a case of, look, just get me one run, and we'll be okay.
That's what I was saying last week.
Yeah, what Tom Glavine said to his teammates in Game 6 in the 95 series. Get me one, because they ain't getting any. They'll have that a lot of the night, but you still got to go get that one. So we'll see how it goes. Again, there's been a lot of surprises in preseason practice right now. I mean, just to throw out one name, Talmadge LaCroix, who played a little last year, I know he was probably going to get some looks. He's been playing really well and probably made himself into a starter right now, where before I think he probably would have been, he'll split some time at catcher. But right now it's like he could be out there as your starting third baseman. So we'll see how it goes. There's, I guess the last scrimmage was yesterday, but you can still do some inter-squad work. It may be a surprise right on up to an hour before first pitch.
Yeah, it really should be. It's interesting you bring up LaCroix, because that was one that Coach King mentioned as well, as, some of these kind of oncoming players and things like that. And I think, sometimes when you see the word platooning in regard to defense, people get a little scared, and it's like, oh, great, we don't know what's going on. But I think in this instance, you're, especially as you're trying to improve the hitting year over year, to get different guys out there, and it gives you the ability to kind of shake things up and shift it with different lineups early on. And fortunately, schedule-wise, you're not staring down a huge, outside of the Clemson series, not a big another Division I, schedule killer, like Texas in years past or things of that nature. I mean, we've got Charlotte, so yeah, let's watch out for that. But just looking at the schedule, I think things shake up favorably to actually put something together here.
Oh, sure. And I think this schedule was put together specifically for this team. You didn't have to agree to anything really far in advance outside of the rivalry series. And the main thing is that there's so many new faces, particularly from an offensive side, that you have to go ahead and try to take it easy. I mean, Mark Kingston knows the deal, as all SEC coaches do. You go 15-15 in the league, you in the tournament.
Yeah.
That's simple. So what you got to make sure is don't spit the bit during the non-conference series. Don't have a bunch of bad losses dragging you down. So that's where, nothing against those baseball programs, but you look in there where you've seen a Texas or a North Carolina before, and now you got UMass Lowell and Bethune-Cookman and Penn, which I was like, Penn has a baseball team?
Yeah, there's a
– all right. I mean, I remember 1979 Final Four Penn, but
yeah, right.
That's okay, great. Hey, come on down. But you have to put that kind of schedule together, get your kids some confidence, get it together. And so you can figure out your lineup, because once the SEC gets here, it's never going to be easy, no matter who you play, no matter what weekend you play. I mean, I still remember, I guess it was 2 years ago or maybe 3 years, where it's like, boy, Gamecocks first series, first tour at Vanderbilt and hosting Florida. They're going to be 0-6. What are they going to do? Came home 4-2.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Crazy things happen. It's baseball. So we'll see if they can keep happening.
For sure.
I have no idea what y'all talked about while aliens invaded my technology around here. So hopefully
it was your Murdoch trial.
You're talking about your beard, yeah. You need to grow that out. Scrape it off a few times, let it come in.
I've been working on it.
You're going to need it, man. I mean, these February games at Founders, it gets chilly once the sun goes down. I mean, you got your winter coat, you got a scarf wrapped around your head. Oh, it's going to be brutal once the sun goes down on Friday night.
Well, it's typical baseball weather, DC. You know exactly how it works. You get the rain that all of a sudden moves into the end of the week, and then the temperature goes straight down the –
Then you get that foul tip off a handle, that aluminum belt or bat, feel it all the way up your spine.
Yeah, exactly. If you're in the stands, good thing they serve alcohol now. So let me ask you this. Obviously, a healthy staff – but I think a lot of people maybe just need to be reminded, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I had to remind myself, they played so many young guys last year. There was a ton of them. We talked to King last week, talked to Monty yesterday, and they're ecstatic about like where a guy like Carson Horning is.
Yeah.
But I mean, just personally speaking, I know you've been around some scrimmages and you've talked to all these guys. Who are you? You can include transfers in this if you'd like, but of the guys that we've gotten to know over the last year or two, especially offensively, who are you most excited to see, or who's really intriguing, somebody that's very intriguing as to what the success of this program might look like this season?
Well, obviously, Jamie, you don't go out hitting the transfer portal as hard as they did without expecting those guys to play. Roman Kimball was going to play a big role. Well, he's going to have Tommy John surgery. That's unfortunate, but you've got the pitching to handle that. So how did you go about with the other transfers? You had to go get hitters. And no matter where they come from, Southern Miss or Memphis, and they got 3 guys from Clemson, and we'll see how that goes, and also Monty Lee to come and work with the hitters. So looking at it right now, you look at a Gavin Cassis. You look at a Caleb Denny. Guys who have done it before on a big level and are going to be expected to do it again. Carson Horning, as you mentioned, I didn't know if he was going to be able to play in this preseason spring because he had a really bad hamstring pull in the fall, but he was out there and he looks terrific. He'll probably start. And then you have some old standbys like Braylon Wimmer, who kind of takes over the Andrew Eister role of last year, be like, going up to him on media day, like, are you still here? One of those kind of things.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, man. I was like, I'm glad to see you, because you're the guy that's been around. But then Evan Stone, who played a little bit last year and really came on at the end of the year. And then Michael Braswell, who played very well as a freshman last year. He's not had a great spring. So I think if the season were to start tomorrow, he wouldn't start, but he's going to be in there because what he can do, at least from a defensive level. So there's a whole lot of those names that they can kind of plug in place. But as I said, you don't go out in the transfer portal and not go get guys who are going to play. That's why they came here. So we'll see how it goes. Cole Messina, obviously a Somerville kid. When he first signed, I think when I was talking with his coach, he said he used this term, that kid is a whiz-bang ball player. Look, that sounds good. I'm not really sure what that means. Okay, but I mean, he had a few chances, last year, but this is the year where he can really step forward and, kind of assume that catcher spot and a good spot in the lineup. So whole lot of names that I think we'll see a majority of them on opening weekend. And then you can start figuring out, okay, who are my guys, who are my 9 that I got to go with game after game.
Yeah, and that's where I think is I think those that have followed this program closely coming into the season, where there is a cautiously optimistic approach to what could be, because the schedule itself, DC, aside from Clemson, who you're always going to have a challenge from no matter what type of team they put on the field, the schedule really sets up to allow them to figure themselves out before they get into the SEC, doesn't it?
No, absolutely. And I was, like I was saying with Phil earlier, you set up this schedule for this team with so many new faces because you have to give them time to get their feet wet, to see what you have. Because let's be honest here, as you guys know, because you ask him as well as I do, it's a crucial season for Kingston. I mean, we all know what happened at the end of last year, why he's still here and why perhaps we're not looking at a new face. But he knows it. There's always pressure in this program. For him, there's a little more this year. So it's going to be a case of like, listen, everybody knows that last year, not an excuse, but there was a big reason why he finished as bad as he did. But it also continues a very bad trend of 4 missed postseasons and 7 tries. Can't continue.
Can't happen.
Who is that cannot happen. I mean, you know, I realize it says it's like, but 10 years ago, more than 10, you know, you're the best program in the sport. Now look at it. I know 10 years is a long time, but it shouldn't have gone this bad this quickly.
Yeah, and we all understand injuries too. I mean, they were decimated on the mound last year, decimated, and that was. But to your point, if what had happened prior had not happened, people would have washed it off. Oh my God, they were just had a ton of injuries. Mm-hmm. But people were not willing to necessarily look past that because of what preceded it, and the fact that just a couple of years ago they were barely 500. They missed a couple of postseasons under Coach Holbrook, and this is the one. I mean, Carolina, DC, you've been around this program literally your entire life. Like, there's one thing that you knew that you could always hang your hat on, and that was the fact that Carolina baseball was going to give you something to be proud of when the spring got here, and people have been panicked and freaked out. I understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, Jamie. I mean, even before they were winning national championships, this is a program you could set your watch by. Yeah. Come hell or high water, every postseason, South Carolina was going to have your 40 wins, and they'd be in it. That's what they did. And then to get to the pinnacle of the sport and then fall off so drastically, you just don't want to see it. And it's hard to sustain success. And, again, I will preach it until I'm blue in the face. Hiring Chad Holbrook was the right move.
Yep.
It was absolutely the right move. It just didn't work.
That's right.
That's that's the reality of the situation. And then, of course, Mark Kingston, there's a good resume there. Could there have been better hire? Sure. There could have been a worse hire. Sure. But this is who you have. And the main thing is that after that first year, I thought, okay, they're going to be okay. No problem. And they haven't been. You had a 500 season. You had a season where you got to the regionals, but you lost, and you lost 23 games in that season. Now, I'll be the first to say, just like in 2018, I don't care how many games you lose. It's where you finish up, because that first year, I think if my math is right, they lost 26 games, which Ray Tanner nor Chad Holbrook ever lost that many in one season. Who cared? One more win and they're in Omaha, and that's a successful season. But they didn't get that win. And so it's like, okay, well, how are you going to match it? And they haven't since. So huge year for Mark Kingston, but they've got the horses to do it. It all starts on that little bump in the middle of the infield, and they got plenty of guys who can get up there. And going back to the youth movement, wait till you see Eli Jersenbeck pitch. Yeah. That kid has got some serious stuff.
Yeah, it's we have heard both publicly and I've heard privately. He's something.
Can't hardly get kids like that. I mean, I for one, I didn't waste much time thinking about him on the scouting department. He'll go pro. Don't worry about him. Don't waste your effort. And he's like, yeah, I'm coming to school. I thought, oh, well, maybe I better get up to Charlotte and talk to you.
That's all right. You're from Rock Hill. You're going home. Yeah. Well, I mean, King said on our show last week, Phil, he compared him to Shane McClanahan, who King recruited, coached, and he started in the All-Star game last year for the American League. And he literally compared this cat to Shane McClanahan. I'm like, oh, man. Oh boy!
And the best thing about him is that because the rotation is so deep, you don't have to throw him out there on the weekend right away. I think it will eventually get there, but it's one of those you can't afford to ease him in against a midweek opponent where theoretically the competition isn't as great. You let him go out there, work out any kinks against real life competition, and then if the time comes, say, "Hey, we're thinking about making a move to our Sunday guy, Eli. What do you think?" Yeah, okay, coach, no problem. And, that's past the whole pitch count that everybody's on in the first, couple of starts. But It's a perfect scenario where you can work him in, and you also have James Hicks waiting out there, and you also have Matthew Becker, who was basically shoved into action last year because he didn't have anybody else. And, it could have been better, but the kid pitched his heart out. Considering he was an overwhelmed freshman who really had no idea what to do. And it was like, hey, you got to throw the Saturday game. Oh, yeah, no problem. And then you go up there, and it's like they got boat paddles, slinging everything you throw into the out of reaches. So, but you just got to keep trying, keep throwing it down there.
I tell you what, man, I remember last year when I know we got to let you go, but last year when he arrived onto the scene, and I was asking Wingo, I said, what happened this weekend? Wingo's response was, Matthew freaking Becker happened. Yeah, careful.
Good old Scotty.
He is something. It's I'm waiting on you to do a story on Monty Lee coaching with Scott Wingo, whom Monty Lee coached.
Well, I think that you probably won't have to wait long on that one. I mean, you got two South Carolina legends right there. So
okay, all right, we'll keep our eyes.
And of course, the first time I saw Monty, I was like, I like you a lot better in those colors. He's like, it fits better, right? Yeah.
Dude, when he, we'll leave that there. I pulled for him because I love him, and wanted him to win, but that was hard. I mean, I'm so glad that's over. And what do you call it, Phil? The orange fog?
Yes, up here in the orange fog.
Yeah. I'm so glad.
He still remembers the $20 I owe him too, which is a story for another day. That goes back a long time.
Forget that stuff. Yeah. All right, DC. Well, stay warm, and I'm so glad we got to see you and catch up with you. I know I'll see you pretty soon. I'll be in Columbia often this spring. Finally, with the kids able to do, I can do that. But look forward to that, and always look forward to everything you write. It's brilliant stuff. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, man. But yeah, it's silly season. Got a lot of sports starting up, but hopefully I'll be over at the baseball park when I'm not covering Dawn's girls as they embark on ring season. And as you fellas well know, business is real good around here when it comes to
business is good.
Yeah, we'll get you back on actually very, very soon. There is a lot that needs to be unpacked with that program. They are far and away the best team in the country. It's not close, and certainly would love to get your comments on that. Thanks, man. Have a great weekend.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
There you go, David Cloninger with the Post and Courier. I apologize for I have no idea what happened. It literally kept. It was like aliens.
Getting hit by the tech bugs today. Who knows? I don't know.
It was aliens. All right. We need to squeeze in the final break. We'll squeeze it in.
Let's do one more.
We'll squeeze it in. Still got a couple of things to get to before we get things wrapped up. Don't leave. Don't go anywhere. Enjoy the rest of your lunch with us. Inside the Gamecocks, the show live from the Signorama Studios. We'll be right back.
I want you to take me to Disney World.
Horror.
Calm down. JC is here. As y'all know, folks, the family and I have visited Disney World many times, but it can be overwhelming, especially if it's your first time going to the most magical place on earth. I highly recommend wherethisroadleads.com and my friend Cherie, a certified Disney vacation planner. That's right, the mouse has given her permission to book your family vacation hassle-free. You don't know where to go, don't know where to stay, don't know where to eat, don't know what to do. It can be overwhelming. So get on wherethisroadleads.com and schedule your free consultation right now. She can help you out. The prices are very reasonable. You don't pay any extra fees. In fact, she's much more reasonable maybe than booking it straight through Disney. So for your next Disney vacation, or, more likely your first, so you don't panic, go to wherethisroadleads.com and talk to Cherie, certified Disney vacation planner, a partner
of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. The home of Aventon, Velotric, Magnum Bikes, and more, they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. Their electric bikes are equipped with 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle, so you can ride longer, handle the heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available for all ages and sizes. Visit electricbikescharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant if you're in the Low Country. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey, Mo Cowboy here from the Carolina Gamecocks. You're listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show with JC and Phil.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Presented to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Of course, broadcasting from the Sinorama of Columbia Studios. I keep screwing that up and saying Sinorama Studios of, in Columbia, as if we were all in Columbia. But you never know. I mean, we're virtual, so we're literally broadcasting and being listened to from everywhere and nowhere all at once.
Well, I'm actually from high atop Founders Park.
I can see where you are. Yeah, exactly. Well, they really jacked up the press box down there, Founders. Put it in the outfield.
Yeah, it's you get to see the whole field up here. So
is this one of the theoretical views from a potential condo expansion from the 1110 project? Is that what this is?
Something like that. Yeah. I think people down the road, when they find out what all is actually coming to Columbia, are going to be, because it's not, there eventually are plans to go beyond basketball from what I've heard. I would keep my eyes on areas around Founders Park down the road, and really excited about that. Let's see here. The Nana's award-winning Nana's Porch chat box. JB, I know it's hard to say, but would you agree that reach super regionals are necessary for us this year? So, that is a really fair question. But it's never black and white in baseball, and here's what is necessary: the postseason, and they're going to. Y'all can come back and crush me all you want to if they don't make it. They'll be in the postseason. I'll stand by that's my preseason prediction. But we have seen plenty in college baseball where some of the better teams don't make it to the supers, and obviously some of the best teams don't make it to Omaha. That's happened a lot. Shoot, it used to happen to Vanderbilt all the time. I was like, golly, they're still not in Omaha. Like, what's going on here? They finally broke through, of course, but when you get into a regional game, or a regional, it really depends on draw. And what I mean by that, and we don't have enough time to get through all this, but Phil, you know this, we've all, if you stop and think about it, you get into a regional, let's say you are a 2 seed and they have to go to Chapel Hill and they have to play this 3 seed up there. It might be Old Dominion, who happens to have a first rounder, and you get beat by a guy who's throwing 96, 97 mile per hour. And like 96, 97 mile per hour, and so now all of a sudden, you're in the loss column, or maybe you win the first game, but you run into the 1 seed and you got to see their ace on Saturday. And now you've got a loss. Like, it's baseball. Some of the best teams or better teams that people thought Coach Tanner had never made it to super regionals. So I'm not trying to set anything up as an excuse for the program or the coaching staff, but I'm a baseball guy. And I understand the game. And sometimes the best 8 or the best 16 teams are not always the ones that are standing at the end of the year. But it's a fair question because Carolina has had some recent struggles and people are tired of that, but it's not as easy as saying, well, you just take the next step. Well, you went up 3 steps, take the 4th one. Well, it's not always that way in college baseball. So I always want to give grace there. People can say what they want, but that's just the truth. It's kind of the just a matter of fact type stuff, So this team should never miss the postseason, and they should more than likely be in the final 16 probably half the time. That's just the program you've got here. So 5 out of 10 years, you should be playing in a super regional probably. And then whatever happens from there, what happens from there. Those
Yeah, I mean, when you bring back the elite potential of Monty Lee as a recruiter and things of that nature, and the program itself being what it is and what it has been over the years, I don't think it's unrealistic to expect postseason every year. And yeah, like you said, top 16, because you have you're fortunate enough to have a college baseball program that is the college equivalent of the team with the biggest pocketbook in the majors, right? I mean, you're effectively doing the same thing. You're able to draw the best talent, you're able to maintain it and keep it for as long as you can and assemble the best roster. So, yeah, if you're not living up to those expectations, then you changes have to be made. But right now, I think as we head into this season, it's postseason or bust. But I don't know about Super.
Yeah, they got to be in the postseason, and they will. They will be in the postseason, I think. And I know we're out of time, but I anticipate this conversation coming up again. If let's say they make it to a regional and they don't get through the regional, then people are going to backtrack on the postseason or bust thing. They're going to say, well, they should have gone further. You got to put context in everything. You just have to. And with baseball, you never know what you're going to be up against. Just because you're playing, whoever you want to play, college or North Carolina A&T, you could still go out and face somebody who has a career night. You could still go out and face somebody who's just really, really good. And you're only as good as your starting pitcher. And that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, look at the record of the winner last year. I mean, we're preseason favorites, and they just got hot right at the right time.
Yeah, and then you put it into context. If you lose 9 or 10 midweek games, you got a problem. There's a problem in the program. You lose 7 or 8, even 6, 7. You got an issue. But we'll get into more of that. Friday, you're going to really love. If you love baseball, if you don't love baseball, you do love superstars. We hope you'll join us tomorrow, though, at 11 on Inside the Gamecocks, the show.